When Stephanos was stoned to death, Saulo was consenting to his death. And there arose on that day a great persecution against the assembly which was in Hierosolymos, and they were all scattered abroad throughout the regions of the Judea and Samaria, except the sent ones. And devout men buried Stephanos, and made great lamentation over him. But Saulo laid waste the assembly, entering into every house, and dragging men and women, he was committing them to prison. They therefore that were scattered abroad went about preaching the word. Acts chapter 9. But Saulo, yet breathing threatening and slaughter against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest, and asked of him letters to Damascus, to the synagogues, that if he found any that were of the way, whether men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. And as he journeyed, it was that he drew near to Damascus, and suddenly there shone round about him a light out of the sky, and he fell upon the earth, and heard a voice saying to him, Shaul, Shaul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And he said, I am Yeshua, whom thou persecutest. But rise and enter into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do. And the men that journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing the voice, but beholding no man. And Saulo was raised from the earth, and when his eyes were opened, he saw nothing. And they led him by the hand, and brought him into Damascus. And he was 3 days without sight, and did neither eat nor drink. Now there was a certain disciple at Damascus, named Hananiah, and the Lord said to him in a vision, Hananiah. And he said, Behold, it is I, Lord. And the Lord said to him, Arise, and go to the street which is called Straight, and inquire in the house of Yehudah for one named Saulo, a man of Tarso, for behold, he is praying. And he hath seen a man named Hananiah coming in, and laying his hands on him, that he might receive his sight. But Hananiah said, Lord, I have heard from many of this man, how much evil he did to thy holy ones at Jerusalem. And here he hath authority from the chief priests to bind all that call upon thy name. But the Lord said to him, Go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel to me, to bear my name before the nations and kings, and the children of Israel. For I will show to him as many things as it is being necessary for him to suffer for my name's sake. And Hananiah departed, and entered into the house, and laying his hands on him, said, Brother Shaul, the Lord, even Yeshua, who appeared to thee in the way which thou wast coming, hath sent me, that thou mayest receive thy sight, and be filled with Holy Spirit. And immediately there fell from his eyes as it were scales, and he received his sight, and he arose, and was baptized, and he took food, and was strengthened, and he was certain days with the disciples that were at Damascus. And immediately in the synagogues he proclaimed Yeshua, that he is the Son of the God. And all that heard him were amazed, and said, Is not this he that in Jerusalem made havoc of them that called on this name? And he hath come hither for this intent, that he might bring them bound before the chief priests. But Saulo increased the more in strength, and confounded the Yehudim that dwelt at Damascus, proving that this is the anointed. And when many days were fulfilled, the Yehudim took counsel together to kill him. But their plot became known to Saulo, and they watched the gates also day and night, that they might kill him. But his disciples took him by night, and let him down through the wall, lowering him in a basket. And when he was come to Jerusalem, he was trying to join himself to the disciples, and they were all afraid of him, not believing that he was a disciple. But Barnabas took him, and brought him to the sent ones, and declared to them how he had seen the Lord in the way, and that he had spoken to him, and how at Damascus he had preached boldly in the name of Yeshua. And he was with them going in and going out at Jerusalem, preaching boldly in the name of the Lord. And he spoke and disputed against the Hellenistic Yehudim, but they were seeking to kill him. And when the brothers knew it, they brought him down to Caesarea, and sent him forth to Tarsus. So the assembly throughout all the Judea and Galilee and Samaria had peace, being edified, and walking in the fear of the Lord Yahweh, and in the encouragement of the Holy Spirit, was multiplied. And it was, as Petro went throughout all parts, he came down also to the holy ones that dwelt at Lod. And there he found a certain man named Aeneas, reclining upon a mattress for 8 years, who was one paralyzed. And Petro said to him, Aeneas, Yeshua anointed healeth thee. Arise and make thy bed. And immediately he arose, and all that dwelt at Lod and in Sharon saw him, and they turned to the Lord. Now there was at Jaffa a certain disciple named Tabitha, which by interpretation is called Dorcas. This woman was full of good works and mercy-givings, which she was effectuating. And it was in those days that she fell sick and died. And when they had washed her, they laid her in an upper chamber. And as Lord was near to Jaffa, the disciples, hearing that Petro was there, sent 2 men to him, entreating him, Delay not to come through as far as us. And Petro arose and went with them. And when he was come, they brought him into the upper chamber, and all the widows stood by him weeping, and showing the coats and garments which Dorcas made, while she was with them. But Petro put them all forth, and having set the knees, he prayed, and turning to the body, he said, Tabitha, arise. And she opened her eyes, and when she saw Petro, she sat up. And he gave her his hand, and raised her up, and calling the holy ones and widows, he presented her alive. And it became known throughout all Jaffa, and many believed on the Lord. And it was that he abode many days in Jaffa with one Simon a tanner.